Redeemer exists to help connect Jesus to people, people to community, and community to mission. You're joining us in the middle of a collection of talks as we look at these signs to life in the Gospel of John. The Apostle John wrote signs that Jesus performed into the text that he explicitly tells us in John chapter 20, verse 31. If we look at the signs, we're intended to believe in Jesus, and as we believe in Jesus through these signs, we can find life. Thomas has done a great job of getting us kicked off on these signs, mostly taking place in the Galilee region, and today we're moving down into Jerusalem to see the sign that Jesus performs today. We're going to see that Jesus encounters a lame man amongst multitude of lame people, and he seeks the lame man out for the purpose of providing whole and complete healing. And it's on offer for you and me today through Jesus. Whole healing, not lacking anything. It's like this surgical procedure called Mohs surgery. It's a procedure where the doctor goes in and you have an element of skin cancer, and he goes and he'll scrape a layer off, and then he'll go back into the lab and test that layer of skin. And if it still has cancer, he'll go back and scrape another off, and scrape another off, and scrape another off until there is no more cancer left. There's whole healing. We see today as Jesus seeks the man, and as he seeks you and me, he is after whole healing, complete healing. And we're going to be encouraged through the sign today. We're going to organize the talk around three plot elements. First, we're going to see Jesus seeking the man. Next, we're going to see Jesus asking a big question. And third, Jesus leaves us with a great exhortation for us and the man in the text. We're in John chapter 5, verses 1 through 15. First, we're going to see Jesus seeks the man in verses 1 through 6. We see Jesus going down to Jerusalem. He's there for a festival. He has the disciples with him. He enters through the sheep gate, and he comes by a pool that's called Bethesda. And there's a multitude of lame people, of invalids, people who couldn't help themselves. And in verse 3, we see there were multiple disabled people, blind, lamed, and paralyzed, and there was one who was laying there. For 38 years he had been an invalid, and Jesus saw him lying there. The big idea is, amongst a sea of people who couldn't help themselves, Jesus seeks out one man. This is really different compared to a lot of his ministry. A lot of his ministry was spent people seeking after him. He actually had to climb into a boat in the Sea of Galilee to remove himself away from people. He had a lady grab after the hem of his robe to find healing. People were always seeking after Jesus. Here we see a man not moving toward Jesus. Jesus moves towards him. And we're going to see today through the text, just as Jesus sought this man out, he's seeking you and I out for a significant purpose. First, we see Jesus seeking the man in this sign, and now we're going to see in verses 6 through 9, Jesus questions the man. In verse 6, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" And the man kind of dodges the question. I have no one to help me. I try to get in and somebody else gets in. And Jesus said to him, after this dodge of his question, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." And at once the man was cured, and he left. And it's somewhat strange, isn't it, that a man sitting by a pool, lame for 38 years, gets asked the question, "Do you want to get well?" It would seem pretty obvious that the man wants to get well. But it's interesting that the man dodges Jesus' question. He doesn't do what you would expect a man laying by a pool for 38 years that's lame would do. You would think he would respond, yes, do you have any way to help me? Sir, Jesus, the one who's perfectly able to heal, standing before him, do you want to get well? And the man dodges it. And the big idea here is that the man is looking for healing other than Jesus. The man's response shows that he failed to grasp who was standing before him. Not only does he miss Jesus' offer, but he is still looking for a way to get into the pool that hasn't saved him in 38 years. Verse 4 is omitted from many of our texts, and the idea is that the original manuscripts did not include verse 4. That was added to later manuscripts, and it tells us there was a superstition that an angel would stir the waters, and if you were the first to get in the waters when it stirred, you would get healed. It doesn't seem like the man even considers that Jesus is an option for healing. He's really just looking at Jesus as a crutch to help him get into the pool where he thinks he can find ultimate healing. John MacArthur puts it this way, quote, like many people, this man's expectations of what Jesus could do for him were limited to what he believed was possible. So the question is for you and me today, is there anything that you think is too broken, too bad, and too far gone for Jesus to heal? The man only looks at Jesus as an able body to get him to what he thinks is his true hope, the pool. And so often you and I lean on Jesus out of what we can get for him. We like his peaceful teachings that decrease anxiety. We like the morality that he preaches, and we want some of that as well. He's useful for you and I to get out of the problems that we face in life. And yet, that's not why he seeks the man, and it's not why he seeks you and me today. He says, do you want to get well? As with the lame man who keeps looking past Jesus to get into the pool, Jesus is graciously seeking you and me today, even when we're looking right past him for other remedies to our healing. Get up, pick up your mat and walk, is what Jesus said. Jesus didn't ask for permission. He didn't worry about messing up the man's plans. He didn't worry about disrupting the man's life. Jesus graciously heals. The man's only qualification for this healing was that he needed healing. He was incapable of healing himself, and he needed healing. And Jesus sought him and said, do you want to get well? At once the man was healed, verse 9 tells us. He took up his bed and he walked. The man had been waiting for 38 years by a pool, and yet here, at once, he was healed by Jesus. Friends, if it's not Jesus, if you're waiting somewhere else for healing, don't wait any longer. You don't have to wait. Jesus is ready and able to heal at once. What are you waiting for? We've got all these things in our lives that we can turn to and look for healing. Are you waiting for a relationship to help you feel settled and whole? Or are you waiting for a job or a promotion that you think is going to cover up those wounds from the past and those insecurities? What about just a change? You need a fresh start to something. I know I fall in this category. You're just waiting for an end to lockdown to solve the problems that are going on. You don't have to wait any longer, friends. I don't have to wait any longer. Today, Jesus is asking you and me, do you want to get well? First, Jesus sees the man. Next, he questions the man. And here, in the final plot turn, Jesus exhorts the man. In verses 9 through 15, after the man's healed and walks away, the Jewish leaders, as they typically do, they're less concerned about the incredible healing that just took place and changed the life of a man who had been lame for 38 years. Instead, they're worried about keeping their moralistic rules. And then, in verse 13, the man who was healed, we're told, had no idea who it was who had healed him. When he was questioned, he didn't know. And later, in verse 14, Jesus came back and found him For the second time, he found him at the temple and said, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." First, we see here in this plot section that Jesus sought the man again. He sought the man amongst a multitude of people who were lame and blind and hurting at the pool. And here again in the temple, amongst the Jewish leaders, he seeks the man out again. We continue to see the grace of Jesus in seeking the man, even when the man isn't looking for Jesus. The indication is the man actually had no idea the name of the man who had just healed him, which is really hard to believe. You would think that you were healed after 38 years and you would find out his name, his details, his address to send a postcard later or something. He had no clue. And yet Jesus seeks him again, not seeking him to get a public thank you, not seeking him to try to get some accolades for himself. He seeks the man to provide whole healing for the man. Jesus was not satisfied with just healing the man's legs. Jesus is more concerned about healing the man's soul, whole healing. We see this in verse 14. "See," Jesus said, "you are well. Sin no more, that nothing more may happen to you." And what could here be confused is a crass encouragement towards moralistic living or even just a sharp threat. It's actually, it unveils the whole point that this whole sign is getting after. Jesus intends for the physical healing that had already been accomplished for the man to actually lead to spiritual healing available through Jesus. So verse 14, it's both a warning and an offer. The warning is, if you continue in separation from Jesus and in sin, you actually face something much worse than 38 years of being lame. You face an eternity in hell, separated from Jesus and God the Father. And that's true for all of us if we don't go and turn to Jesus. Something worse than even 38 years of being lame. That's the warning. The offer, though, is implicit here. It's as if Jesus is saying here, my aim in healing your legs is ultimately the healing of your spiritual illness, your spiritual condition. Receive this gift. And this offer is true for you and me today. Whatever condition you find yourself in, whether you'd say you're a believer and a follower of Jesus or whether that's not true of you yet, the offer and the warning are true for you and me today. This gift is on offer and it's received with the open hands of faith. For the question for you and I is, just as it was for the lame man, do you, friend, want to get well? For you listening who you would say you're not yet a believer in Jesus, stop looking to heal the symptoms of your illness and look for healing for the actual source of the illness, your spiritual condition, your spiritual illness. Jesus can provide it. And Redeemer family, and those who are around the Redeemer family who have received spiritual healing, we still have elements of our lives that are not spiritually whole. There's still spiritual sickness in us. Stop looking to mask it over. Stop looking for religion and things to do to cover it up. Turn to Jesus. He can still spiritually heal you. Friends, Jesus graciously heals to the uttermost. We can sing the words of England's own Robert Robertson, who penned in 1758 the hymn, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." He said, "Jesus sought me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God, he to rescue me from danger, interposed his precious blood." Just like he sought the lame man, Jesus seeks you and me. He is still seeking us. Jesus, the most spiritually healthy man to ever walk on the earth, he came and he shed his precious blood so that us, spiritually sick people, he could take our spiritual sickness and kill it on the cross, and he exchanged that to give us his perfect spiritual condition. It's available through faith in Jesus. Do you want to get well today, friends? Go to Jesus. Keep going to Jesus. Believe in the Jesus who performed this sign, healing the lame man wholly. this Jesus does wholly heal.